The Irregular at Magic High School might just be one of the best books I can recommend to science and engineering types, despite the fact that it's a book about a godlike high school student and his very affectionate little sister. Yeah. Hello, virtual dreamers, Gregory here. And yeah, there's a perception among people that we kind of technical, science-minded people aren't really big fans of things like magic or supernatural ghost stuffs, or that we don't believe in it in general, and that for the most part we aren't the biggest fans. Obviously, that isn't entirely true, because there are plenty of big nerds that love stuff like Warcraft and The Lord of the Rings and other such fantastic fantasy series out amongst our ranks. But at the same time, there is an element of truth to the fact that people tend to like things that go along with what they're good at. So it makes sense that maybe we more engineering, sciencey types aren't going to be as into the fantasy side of things so much as we are going to be into the sci-fi. But that's going to be the point of interest today, because I have a light novel series that, despite being about magic, one of the most fantastic things you can imagine, would actually appeal very greatly to the engineering, technology, you know, the STEM crowd, per se. So how does that work? Well, I'm going to need you to go down below, hit that like button, because I'm going to wreck the laws of conservation of energy up in this video by dropping up some knowledge from nothing. And I'd really appreciate it if you got your seat of admission and accent early in order to show your appreciation for this magic show. Go ahead, I'll wait. Done? Okay, everybody, class is now in session. Once again, the series in question here is Mahouka Koukou no Rettousei, otherwise called the Irregular at Magic High School, and it revolves around a high school student named Tatsuya Shiba, as well as his little sister, Miyuki Shiba, who are both attending First High Magical High School, which takes place in a very altered world from our own, because, right in the title there, Magic High School. You see, the world of Mahouka takes place in a slightly alternate reality to ours, where most of the same things happened, but there was just one little tiny difference relative to everything else. And that is that magic in the world of Mahouka is real. That is, it is a measurable, observable phenomenon that can be interacted with, dealt with, and studied just like anything else in reality. This happens around the late 20th century in the world of Mahouka, which means that at that point, they'd already had things like computers, they already had nuclear warheads, they already had cars and automobiles, space travel, and all sorts of our most fantastic technological developments and foundations already in play. But now they have the added element of magic to be studied and analyzed in a period where there is no firm foundation on its practice. As you can imagine as a technical thinker, you are able to now expand the reaches of science in this case. Because a lot of people have this misconception that science is some kind of database where everything has to be specifically fitting into the model of what we expect, when in reality that is not what science is about. If anything, science is about looking at reality and accepting it for what it is. There are a lot of cases where scientists want a particular outcome that confirms their theories or hypotheses, but often the facts, the observations that we make through experiments just don't line up. That usually ends up with people having to either go back to the drawing board, kind of scrap out their old ideas, or try to look at things from a different angle in order to figure out what exactly is happening. I mean, just consider Isaac Newton's research and theories were fundamentally some of the best things we had in science, but in a certain way, Einstein's general relativity basically just said, yeah, you were kind of right, but at the same time, here's why you're wrong. So yeah, science isn't a firm thing, so when you take that into consideration now and you apply a entirely new thing to be researched in magic, we have to wonder, how would the scientific community analyze that? How would we take it? And that is the world that Mahouka exists in. It takes place 100 years into that future, nearly. So that means it's nearing the end of the 21st century that we're currently in, and magic has had a good while to be studied under the scientific method, which has led to a lot of fascinating things. Magic in the world of Mahouka isn't some separate entity or system that exists and works and operates outside of the framework of natural physics. It's basically just an extension of natural physics, actually. They have fundamental particles of magic like push ions and plus ions. They have laws for magic and the way it can be applied. They have phenomena that they regularly observe, such as the eidos. There are actual limitations to how they can observe it for the most part. They don't fully understand how it works in every single way at the point in the story we're in. And a lot of the characters are operating with magic almost either in a kind of art-like style, but they're all very fascinating in a scientific style as well. So you'll often see people just analyzing and carefully dissecting the way in which magic works and accepting the fact that they aren't fully understanding what is happening in every single situation. For all of you technical thinkers out there, this is an incredibly good thing and a very fascinating thing to deal with, because it means that we get to analyze physics and what we traditionally deal with in our day-to-day with a slight twist on it that is very, very well documented, because that is actually the feature of Mahouka that I feel warrants the most attention here, everybody. And the main reason why I'm actually recommending it so much to anyone with a very technical mindset that's interested in the STEM fields, or really if you just have a very critical thinking mind perspective. And that is that Mahouka absolutely relishes in info dumps. I'm talking that they will explain to you in multiple pages of detail how it is that somebody manages to make an egg move through something that looks like fundamental telepathy. They'll go into the way it has to be accelerated, pushed around, it's momentum controlled, and slowed down just before impact in order to prevent it from just colliding with the ground. They will explain in hard detail the way in which physics interacts with magic, because it isn't just, again, that magic is its own system that kind of exists outside of physics. It works in tandem with physics. There's an actual latency that can be measured and manipulated and abused to when magic versus physics takes control. There's cases where physics will override magic, where magic can override physics, and there's a logic to that that can be understood and used. The main characters are constantly investigating this, and that's actually a very important thing to note. That magic high school student we talked about at the beginning, the main character of the series over here, not the little sister, Shiba Tatsuya, or Tatsuya Shiba, depending on the order you want to use. Yeah, even though he is very skilled at combat magic, there's a reason why I use the term godlike to describe him. But the main thing that's of interest to us here is that he is also a magic engineer. That is to say that he studies magic and uses his analysis of it in order to create tools, solve problems, and attempt to understand the nature of magic. Tatsuya in particular has an ability known as Elemental Sight, which allows him to understand the fundamentals of what is going on at magic at almost any scale. This is an incredibly valuable asset in that world. The best way I can describe it would be if somebody had the ability to directly and visibly observe the quantum world. Yeah, that's how big of a deal it is. He doesn't have to go through an electron microscope, try to create a indirect phenomena that can be observed in order to try to gather the information of what's happening on the quantum level. He would basically just be able to see it and manipulate that at that, which is a very good thing for us as an audience, because that means that we have a character who is not only of a very technical mindset, he also has the tools necessary to very much analyze everything that's going on around him, which means that the book itself and the series as a whole has the opportunity to just completely nerd out on every facet of its magic system. You'll often hear people talking about other series such as Hunter x Hunter or the Toaru series for their very in-depth magic systems, but what I love about the Mahouka universe is that not only does it have an in-depth magic system, you understand the foundations of it, the elemental particles of it, the rules of it, and how it can be used. You see the entire system around magic being developed. We're talking about having research institutions, award ceremonies for it, presentations. It's a high school setting. You have students that are readily talking about classes, learning things, taking notes, learning from their teachers, and actively doing their own research and practice in order to get better at their craft. Can you imagine that? A high school where the students actually like learning. Wow, that's even crazier than the magic. The series is very, very much focused on the way in which its magic is working. So you, as an audience member, have the opportunity to kind of formulate your own hypotheses on who would win, not just based on the nature of, maybe this person has more willpower or they've trained longer, but based on their magic types. I mean, the main character is quote-unquote godlike, but there was actually a particular scenario where they put him up against a character who is otherwise a supposed side character who we wouldn't pay much mind to, and he is genuinely being given a lot of trouble. In spite of the fact that he is slightly holding back, but at the same time, the reason he is having trouble is because his type of magic, or his style of it, is incompatible with the other person's. And if you analyze the type of magic they have, you understand why that is on a fundamental level. There is no kind of guessing game or some simple rock, paper, scissors. You have to genuinely understand the mechanics of it. And if you enjoy doing that, if you enjoy going through physics books, learning how to manipulate formulas, or coming up with fascinating ideas on how to use a system in creative ways, this series is absolutely going to be your jam. I mean, seriously, they go into so much detail, it's kind of crazy. I mean, they have things such as the 4 main types and the 8 subtypes. They have laws such as the cardinal codes, as well as principles that can be understood. The series takes a lot of things that we traditionally see in other magic systems and expands upon them in a manner that kind of conforms to the logic of their world. Things such as ranking systems aren't just based on, oh, how powerful the spell is, but it's very much considering of politics and the national situation at hand in that case. There is strategic class magic, in other words, magic that is capable of turning the tides of war, much in the same way that nuclear weapons are capable of. Magicians themselves, due to having that power, are often seen almost as human weapons. There are rights and trials over that matter. There are questions, and there's a lot of moral gray ground. I mean, just think about how much problems we've had in the past just as we've developed scientifically, the kind of moral ethics of human experimentation, and whether or not that is right or wrong, and all the things that have been done that we don't really look proudly upon now, but that were done for the sake of progress, and that in this world are continuing to be done, because there are questions of whether or not magicians should be considered human, whether or not magic itself should be considered a weapon despite of its use, or if it really matters if we consider the rights of magicians since they were developed to be weapons in certain circumstances. It's a very complex kind of political drama situation going on there, and what I love about it is that it's all happening around a framework of magic, but being analyzed under the lens of science. So if you're very interested in science, but want to analyze it from a slightly less surreal perspective, or just want to kind of take a moment to just kind of expand your view of the scope of what science can be, you should definitely consider reading the Mahouka series, or checking out the anime, or whatever means you can do so, just because this series really does embody that idea of taking something fantastic and trying to ground it in reality and logic. Now, admittedly though, if you're not the most scientifically minded person, this series still has something for you. I mean, like I said again, it does have its little weird oddities. I mean, again, there's a very affectionate little sister character here. The main character is a veritable chick magnet, despite the fact that he has a almost literal cardboard personality. They have an in-canon reason why he is as bland as he is, but again, just because the canon gives an excuse for it does not make it any less bothersome for us, the audience, to have to deal with. But if you can get past that, there is so much to be reaped from this series. Because again, apart from the whole fact that you have all that nitty-gritty detail, you get to see and witness the way in which these fascinating systems are utilized. Because again, this series is not taking place in a world as comfortable or as nice as our own. War, due to magic, has continued on. consider the idea that maybe the reason we don't have as much great wars between larger superpowers in our modern age is due to the fact that we have the threat of mutually assured destruction due to nuclear weaponry out on the table at all times. With magic, though, in their series, that is no longer as prominent an issue. They have a means by which to counteract the nuclear weapon. Magic itself can be comparable, if not superior, to nuclear weapons. There's a joke about Tatsuya himself being the quote-unquote eco-friendly nuclear bomb. Although you should probably add the fact that he's eco-friendly and reusable onto that table, which is highly concerning, as you can imagine, but at the same time, come on, people! We get to see E equals MC squared utilize a singular drop of water and see the actual aftermath of that. We get to see people creating pressure waves and manipulating that over actual high school settings and being resisted by the utilization of various principles of counter magic in order to avoid having the system activate. That kind of almost hackery versus science-y versus magic, it's just wild and awesome, and I absolutely love it when it happens. And goodness, I wish there were a season 2 to this thing already. But hey, for the meantime, we've got these, the light novels, and if you want to know where you can pick it up, come on down to the description section, because I have an Amazon affiliate link with the first book in the series that I have right here in my hand for you to begin reading and enjoying as well. The series is well past 20 light novels at this point, but they're still working on translating them, so you're gonna have plenty more to read up on in the coming years. And in addition, there is an anime series for those of you who are more action-oriented and want to see things kind of happening on screen. Although, again, I really do have to recommend more that you read the light novel, not so much just because the anime itself, I personally feel, doesn't have the greatest animation. I mean, it's okay, it was made by Madhouse, I believe, and for the most part it does manage to visually represent everything cleanly, but I think it's a little too clinical and it doesn't have enough pop, if you know what I mean. I just wanted a little bit more vibrancy to it, and there are some moments that I just preferred, yeah, let me keep my imagination to that one, you guys can keep your animation. But yeah, again, there's an Amazon affiliate link down below. That means that if you click it and buy it through there, that I get a small little bit of a kickback from it. So if you want to help support the channel directly, that is the way you can do it, while also getting something of value for yourself. So again, check out the light novel here that I have in my hands if you want to. And also note, there are 2 or 3 or kind of 4 manga series for this thing. I actually started off with a light or manga series for this initially, and once I kind of ran out of that, I started getting hungry for more just because I was so technically minded. I wanted to know more and more and more, and it actually managed to get me to start reading books because, just a heads up, everybody, I used to be more of a manga-only or anime-only kind of guy. I never really liked reading books. I remember my high school teacher, Miss Gillespie, actually kind of got a little bit peeved by that fact that whenever she would take us over to the library, go get a book, everyone, start reading time. Yeah, I'd just pick out manga. It's like, come on, I can read just as much information from the pictures as I can from the words. Yeah, you smarmy little smart butt. I was not the most fun person to deal with back in high school. But yeah, everybody, if you want to help me out, go click down below on that Amazon affiliate link. It really does help me out. And if you want to check out the anime, you can check it out over at Crunchyroll down below in the description. And I've also heard that it's available on Netflix and Hulu, but I don't really use those platforms myself since I mainly just watch anime with what little free time I have, so I mainly stick to Crunchyroll. But again, you have various options there, so don't think that you have to use the things that I have in my description. You go ahead, look it up if you want to. Well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. And again, hit that subscribe button down below and click that notification bell right there next to it, because the subscription system on YouTube kind of sucks nowadays, and that algorithm is not doing me any favors. So yeah, it's as close as you can get to getting able to see all the latest content that I create whenever it does come up. In addition, go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already, because I know there are a few of you that probably just skipped ahead towards the middle of the video and didn't see that little request that I made in the middle. You know who you are. Just go ahead and hit that like button. There's no harm, no foul, no matter what time you do it. And I appreciate the fact that you managed to get this far in the video anyway. If you want more to watch from me, I've got an entire playlist of anime, technology, mostly Sword Art Online stuff, if we're going to be honest at this point in time. But yeah, mostly anime tech stuff that you can check out in a playlist. I'm going to be adding more and more anime to my repertoire, more and more series, more and more stuff. So yeah, we're going to be growing this out beyond just the reaches of Kirito's wonderful little harem nest. Thank you again, my fellow adventurers and dreamers, for watching this video. Till next time, this has been Gregory, logging out.